started originally. And Lou Vaughn and Carol Roper Park. Carol was a state rep at one time, but Lou's just a very important man in the city of Independence. He's been an important man in my life. He encouraged me to run for the DNC, and I did, and I'm going to again next week.
Terrific.
So, and everybody here, you heard him say it. Thank you. When you got his endorsement, you can't go much higher. So, Lou, would you like to say something?
Well, sure. I'd like to say hello to everybody, and it's good to see so many Democrats at this function, and it's wonderful for Keith and Sandy to host this event for Claire. And we all support Claire. We need Claire. Our country needs Claire. Support her, of course, and all the other Democrats, a lot of office holders and people that are running for office here. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you. And that's about it,
Thank you,
Sandy.
Lou.
And you keep up the good work
I
on
will.
the DNC.
Lou was on the DNC at one time.
8 years, and it was a pleasure.
So and it's been fun. Thank you for coming tonight. He's got to leave, so that's why I started with him, and then we'll get going. There's just a few dignitaries I want to introduce, and if you all need to leave, just go ahead and do so. Okay?
Thank you, sorry.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you very
Hug
much.
before you go. Thank you so much. Having the wedding. Thank you. The wedding was wonderful. It was fun. Your dress. Thank you.
Ira Anders, the state rep. Mayor Don Reimel and Jill Marie. Teresa Garza Ruiz. And Mike Martin, former city council person in Independence and former chair of the county committee. Kansas City Council. And Ed was a senator and commissioner and I don't know, all kinds of things.
He's sitting down. Gene Peters Baker.
Gene Peters Baker, I didn't see her coming.
The Gene Machine.
Sandra Reeves.
Sandra Reeves is here. Okay, for the Senate.
She's going to win the Senate.
She's going to win the Senate. Oh, and Teresa Hensley is here. Did she have to leave?
I think I saw her run out.
And here she is in here, and she's going to be going to Congress this next year. Anybody else I missed?
Carol Jean Mays.
Yes, the famous Carol Jean Mays.
We appreciate everybody that's here, and pretty soon I'm going to hand this over to Mike. But there's just there's a group of people here that I'm going to take the privilege of introducing, and that's all the IBEW people who are here tonight. Raise your hand, and I saw back in there, 124 can raise their hand too.
So the power better not go off tonight.
We can fix it if it does.
And John Mayfield, who's running.
John?
Sandy,
Yes.
we're fortunate to have the president of Missouri NEA here, Chris Gunther. I don't know that I introduced you.
I have a daughter who's working in my kitchen in here who's an NEA member, and she's going to be representative of her building this year. So we're hoping to get her off the ground, get her going. But I'm going to turn this over to Mike to introduce Claire. I want to say just a word or two about Claire myself, and it has nothing to do with your script, because I don't know. But I've known Claire for a long time, and I could tell some real stories on her. The one I got a couple, but the one story that I remember when she was running for prosecutor, I think, Claire. And we were working away and stuffing envelopes, and it was like the night before the election, and she just raised her hands up in there, and she said, "That's it. 5 and 1 by now. I'm not going to win. Let's go for margaritas. We all went for margaritas and food. And then the other one is, one time she was talking about her accomplishments. Do you remember this, Claire? And she said, the thing I'm the proudest of is my children. Aww. And I'll never forget her saying that. So that made an impression on the person she is, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike Sanders.
Well, if anyone out here is religious, tonight my son at 8:30 tips off for his basketball championship game at UA Bragg. He's the starting point guard, so he didn't get his athletic talent from me. So please say a prayer for them. Before I start into introducing, obviously, the guest of honor here, the person we all came to support, let's give Sandy and Keith a big round of applause. It seems like every election season we come to Sandy and Keith's house for the food and obviously for the great view. But the reality is they open up their homes to candidates all throughout this county, all throughout this state. There isn't one person that's run for office successfully that these two haven't supported and helped. So thank you very much for everything that you've done. Well, and I think we know it. I think you feel it. But a political hurricane is about to descend on the state of Missouri. And the person that's going to be in the eye of that hurricane, in the center of that hurricane, is standing right here to my right, Claire McCaskill, again, in the eye of that hurricane. Now, you think about it, I think for all of us here, there isn't one person that's in this audience that Claire hasn't touched in one way or another. Touched us personally, helped us. Think of the number of times we've reached out for advice, for help, for things that we need as a state. This is the person time and time again that we've gone to. I think a lot of times that familiarity puts you in a position where sometimes we lose sight of the great things that she has done for this country and for this state. In a short amount of time of office, short amount of time, think of a few of the things that she's fought for that mean so much to the people that are here. Whether it's for working men and women, making sure that the veterans at Walter Reed were taken care of, making sure through the Truman Commission that your dollars weren't wasted on those veterans, making big oil accountable for the damage down in the Gulf, fighting the bankers on Wall Street. The reality is the person that's been in the front lines all throughout this nation is standing right here with you right here today. We owe her a big round of applause for that. It's great to get applause at an event like this, but the reality is when you fight big money, you fight international corporations, that comes at a major price. At a major price. And so just for a second, let's all think about what it's like to be Claire McCaskill, right? Think about what that means, what it feels like every day to wake up, turn on the TV when you're getting your coffee and watch the next $1 million that Karl Rove is spinning on you to make you look bad, right? Driving up here today, she had to meet a tracker that was hired by the Republican Party to film every step that she takes. The microscope that's descended on her life, on her family's life, on her campaign's life. Think about what that means and what that feels. The reality is, I think it was Shakespeare that said, in life you're judged by the enemies you make. And let's think about the enemies that Claire has made in her short amount of time that she's been in the United States Senate. Right? Think about that. The investors and bankers on Wall Street that almost ruined our nation are lining up against Claire McCaskill. The big oil companies that destroyed the Gulf are lining up against Claire McCaskill, and not the least of which is great guys like Karl Rove were organized to try and defeat Claire McCaskill. But the reality is, when I look at the people here today, people that have stood in polls in the cold weather, in the rain, believed in the progressive causes that we all support, the reality is, those international corporations, Karl Rove, the millions of dollars, the international corporations, they don't vote in the state of Missouri. We vote in the state of Missouri. And the reality is, this election is about more than any other Senate election that I think I've seen in my lifetime. The reality is, in this Senate election, we're going to decide, we in the state of Missouri, we are the bellwether and we are ground zero. And we're going to decide, we, the voters of Missouri, are going to decide whether we have a nation that is for the middle class or whether or not we have a nation that's for sale to the international corporations. And the reality is, this November, through your hard work, what we're going to do is send a message that the state of Missouri and this country is not for sale. And what we're going to do is we're going to send Claire McCaskill back to the United States Senate so she can do what she's been doing for the last 6 years, and that's fight for every one of us. So God bless you, and go get it.
Before she starts her speech, we have a couple of presentations.
Well, I got to tell you the funniest thing that happened. First of all, I love all you guys. I love the Querrys. You go through life and you make friends. Not that you don't love all your friends, but, you know, there's certain friends you make that, man, oh man, are they there for you? And, you know, all of you that are lucky enough to call Sandy and Keith friends know that they're those kind of friends. All of us know that if we were in a bind, if something was happening in our family or in our lives, and we needed help this minute, they'd drop everything they were doing to be there for us. So thank you for being those kinds of people. Now, here's the funny part. I walk out of the car down here, and the tracker was there, and we're walking up Keith Querry's driveway. This tracker's got the thing going on, and he goes, Senator McCaskill, what do you have to say about the NLRB destroying jobs in America? And I thought to myself, he has no idea where he is. Because if he says one more word about unions destroying America, the guy who owns his property is going to come out and put about 50 buckshot in his butt. So I thought it was kind of funny. He probably didn't realize that he was in the wrong place to be trashing unions. And let me start with that. I see a lot of friends here that are proud to carry a card. And let's not forget for a minute that this isn't just about whether or not we hold on to Social Security. And it's not just about whether or not we keep Medicare as a guarantee. And it's not just about whether or not we're going to be able to have a minimum wage that allows someone to work with dignity. This is really about whether or not workers in this country are going to be able to continue to collectively have a voice in the workplace. Because that's the goal here. And I think I think everybody knows that it's been a problem as we've seen membership shrink for a lot of reasons, including manufacturing going to other countries, a race to the bottom in terms of the labor pool. But I sometimes think that we still get caught up in some of the specifics of what's going on in our union and what's going on with our union politics and whether or not the guy running this one is being fair to the guy running that one. And I think sometimes we forget to close ranks. We forget to realize that it isn't about whether or not somebody that's running another local is doing the right thing or whether they're spending their money the right way. The issue is whether or not these three people running against me that want to destroy unions, whether they get a chance to have a vote in the United States Senate. And that's when we have to close ranks, you guys. That's when we have to quit picking around the edges and picking at each other. That's when we have to come together and say, you know, we're going to lock arms. And we're not going to let you through because we have been the greatest country in the world. Because we've had a middle class. And we've had a middle class because workers were able to speak with one voice and say, we want to have health care. We want to have vacations. We think we deserve a weekend. We think our kids ought to be able to go to college. And we think we ought to have a secure retirement. And last time I looked, that was not the problem in America. And the notion that they've tried to make this about whether it was in Wisconsin or Ohio or in City Hall or anywhere else, the idea that they're trying to make this, that this is somehow about how big people's pensions are that work hard for a living. We shouldn't begrudge somebody a good pension if they've worked hard for a living. We should say, yahoo! And so that's really what this is about. And I want to tell you, every single one of you that are here, that work collectively to make sure the members of your union have a voice. I am lucky to have you in my corner. I don't forget for a minute that you're in my corner, and I do not take you for granted. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart what you're going to do in the next 6 months for me in this election. Thank you very much. Yeah, so everybody see Mom on the commercial?
Yeah.
I love it. It's good, isn't it? Great commercial for her. You know, it's so funny because they put the commercial together first as a web video, and I looked at it, and I called the guys that helped me with my TV, and I said, you know, can we get it down to a 30-second? Because, you know, you buy commercials in 30-second slots. And if you buy them in 60-second slots, it's very expensive. So I had them try to cut it in a 30-second spot. So I took it up to Mom and I showed her, And she looked at it and she goes, well, no. She says, it has to be 60. I said, what, are you going on strike? She goes, I'm just telling you. She says, don't cut any of that out. So we put the 60 on. And it is very expensive to have the 60-second add-on. But as Mom said, she goes, if you don't give me full 60 seconds, they might forget me. I said, okay, fair enough. And I think she's probably right about that. I think she's right that in this particular instance, that longer amount of time, give people the sense of how authentic she is and how she's speaking from her heart. The other funny thing is they tried to script her. Yeah. And everybody laughs here because you know her. I tried to tell them, they said, well, we have a script for your mom. I said, well, you've obviously never met her. That will not work. Just let her talk and it'll be fine. And of course it was. She sends her best. My sister and her husband are here that live in Kansas. And they are, by the way, Nick is really being helpful and Lisa are both being very helpful because as a family, they've decided that they will go and represent me because I've got to be in Washington. I didn't have to do this last time. I'm in Washington so much, I can't get around to the Pettis County Democratic Women's Picnic, and I can't get down to Dexter for their spring fling. So both my sisters have gone on the road for me already, and they're going to be on the road all the time representing me, and I really appreciate it, you guys.
If you cut her hair a little shorter, we think she would do.
Cut your hair a little bit, no, thank you. And my daughter is home this summer from college. She's working on the campaign, and my other daughter's taking a leave of absence from her job to come home. She'll be home next week, and we'll be here till November. So we're all rolling up our sleeves in my family, and you're all family too. And so you got to roll up your sleeves. Now, here's the deal. The three people running against me, and I talked about this a little bit the last time, but now I can tell you officially, they are wackadoodles. I mean, these are, it's a technical term. Or, as I said out at Truman Days, because I couldn't talk very well that night, but these three candidates really make John Ashcroft look like a liberal. These are people that believe that the federal government should not be guaranteeing student loans. That this should be something we do in the private sector. Now, I'm thinking this through. I'm thinking a young person who wants to go to college, whose family can't afford to send them. I'm just real sure if they walk in that bank and say, will you lend me $50,000? Well, I'm sure that bank will do it on their signature. Won't there? Are there any bankers here? I mean, I'm pretty sure they just do that on the signature of a high school senior. Not. Of course, banks aren't going to loan kids that can't afford to go to college money to go to college because they're not credit worthy. That's why the federal government has always guaranteed student loans. That's why we've had so many kids that have been able to go to college because we've been able to guarantee student loans. And then you got to think about Pell Grants. They think Pell Grants are a waste of our money. Now, seriously, Pell Grants, which has been the absolute rung on the bottom of the ladder for so many kids to get to college. They think we should do away with the Department of Energy and the Department of Education. Now, we're getting ready to make a huge investment in Missouri for modular nuclear capability. This is a real deal, guys, that would create thousands and thousands of jobs and an exportable product all around the world. Westinghouse and Ameren UE have teamed up along with the rural co-ops, and the Department of Energy is going to make a big investment, and I guarantee you that our project is going to have merit because Westinghouse is the #1 company when it comes to nuclear in this country. They want to do away with the Department of Energy, which means all that would go away. So you just look down the line at the positions they have. And as I like to point out to people, it's not like any of them's going for the middle. One of them's endorsed by Freedom Works, the largest Tea Party organization in the country. The second one is endorsed with by the Tea Party Express, the second largest Tea Party group in the country. Not to be outdone, the third one got endorsed by Michelle Bachmann. So that's why they all are officially in the wackadoodle category. These are people that are really hanging on to the far right. And they believe that there is no compromise, that compromise is evil. And I don't think that's how most Missourians feel. I think most Missourians see compromise is what we should be about. Trying to figure out a way to bring people together to the middle and get something done. Whether it's getting people back to work or whether it's fixing our tax code so it's more fair, whether it's making sure that Medicare doesn't turn into a voucher program. And nothing makes me madder than the ad they're running right now where they're telling the lie, the out-and-out lie that I voted to cut Medicare. Now, here's what I did. I voted to pull some money from insurance companies that were making really big profits off Medicare Advantage. And guess what they're doing in their budget, the Republicans? The same thing. The same thing, except they take it 2 steps further. They're not only going to pull the Medicare excess profits from insurance companies that we did in the health care bill, they're going to say to people, now this is what they're advocating, so you understand. I want you to share this with people. They're going to say to my mom, instead of Medicare, we're going to let you go and buy private insurance, and we're going to give you some money to help you buy it. Okay? Well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Now, she's 80, almost 84 years old. She has 3 chronic illnesses. Now, let's assume they give her, let's assume for purposes of this conversation, the amount they give her is $15,000 to buy insurance. And let's assume that she gets to this private insurance company and they say, well, we can't insure you for $15,000. You might have, you've had 2 hospital admissions in the last 90 days. One hospital admission costs 40, 50 grand easy, without even breaking a sweat. So they're going to say to her, no, we think that your premium needs to be about $6,000 a month. And where does she go? What does she do? That's what they're advocating. To switching Medicare to a voucher program on the private insurance market. Now, why did we do Medicare in the first place? Why did Harry Truman say this was a good idea? Because it's really hard for old people to get private health insurance. Duh. So that's why it came about in the first place. So that when you're elderly, you don't have to worry about whether or not you can get health care. And that's what they want to turn on its head. And I'll tell you what, they will not be allowed to do that if we hold on to the Senate. I can assure you that. Because the Democrats in the Senate will hear none of that or the nonsense about privatizing Social Security. And both of them are on the table with this group. They want to turn out the lights on the federal government. They want to turn out the lights on the investment of the federal government in our infrastructure. The only thing they want to fund is more tax cuts for rich folks and defense. And they'll cut everything to do those 2 things. So that's what's at stake here. It's pretty simple. And in case you haven't noticed, they think they can take me out. So far, they've spent $6.5 million of anonymous money all on negative ads against me. And the poll out this week, I'm tied. That's good, you guys.
Hey.
That's good. That's good. And the rest of the story is Missourians don't know about these other guys yet. And I can't afford to disqualify all 3 of them. So I'm going to have to wait till one of them merges. And then I'm going to have to tell everyone how extreme they are and that they really aren't the kind of folks that have the same view of this country or the same values that most Missourians have. So that won't happen until August, which means from now until August, I probably have to stay up on TV. Karl Rove went up with another $600,000 yesterday. You may have seen it already. That's the new one that says I voted to cut Medicare. And when he's done, in 2 weeks, guess what will happen? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce will go back up. And when he's done, then one of these other anonymous super PACs will go back up with more money. And they're going to keep pounding on me all the way until August because they think my hands are tied to pound on the Republicans. And they kind of are. So we've got some strategy ready, and we will be ready, and we will do this. And once we have a contrast, and once they begin hearing some stuff about these 3, and not just bad stuff about me, you're going to see this thing tip back to a place that all of you are going to go, oh, that feels a little better. In the meantime, I need you. We're going to open, I think, 26 different offices around the state. There will be 3 or 4 offices in the greater Kansas City area, all on the Missouri side. We've got one north. We've got one in St. Joe. We'll have one out east. We have one 63rd in Meyer. We're going to have lots of offices. We're opening the one at 63rd and Meyer tomorrow morning. We have 500 people that have signed up to come to the office opening tomorrow morning. That's a good sign. We need lots of time, you guys. We need your time on the phone. We need your time on canvases. We need you to work. And what we do is going to help Sandra It's going to help. It's definitely going to help our new Congresswoman from Cass County, Teresa Hensley. It's going to help. We will be doing the ground game for the Democrats this time, and it's about a $2.5–3 million program. And I'm raising the money for that separately from the $18 million I have to raise to be on television from now until November. And so I'm spending way too much time with my tin cup out. So your help tonight is meaningful. I particularly want to thank all the unions who have given what they can out of their PAC, not just to my campaign, but also to this coordinated campaign effort that we're doing that's paying for all these offices to open and all this field staff to organize us all so we get all of our voters to the polls and we persuade all those folks in the middle. It's a very simple formula. Not my first time at the rodeo, you guys. I got to tell you, I saw Carl Rove in the airport in St. Louis, and I walked right up to him and I said, Carl, I'm just going to tell you one thing. You're going to know you've been in a fight in Missouri. We can do this, you guys. Don't let anybody tell you we can't. This is a race that we can and we will win. And I feel very comfortable that we've got a very powerful story to tell. And with your help, with all of your help, we're going to tell that story. And we're going to make sure that we hold on to the values that we care about in this country that have made this country great. And thank you for being here tonight. And thank you for all you're going to do between now and November. And as I said before, and you've heard me say it before, if you'll have my back for the next 5 months, I'll have your back for the next 6 years. Thank you guys.
There's a couple more introductions I'd like to make, and one of them is Lyndon Rowland and his wife from Kansas Southern just walked in. I guess and then there's a gentleman here in my kitchen, Dr. Harry Jonas, who has been in Independence forever and was well known.
Passed the health care reform bill. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Gary.
And Sherwood, would you like to come up? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the shirt he's got on.
Great.
Oh, good. He's got the new one. I love it.
Michelle, where's your shirt?
Let me look at the back. Does it say 2012?
Of course it does.
Oh, I love it. The new model. Yay, I thought you had an old one on. No, I love it. I love it.
Sandy, what do you want me to do?
She wants you to hand me that envelope.
Oh,
I know what she wants.